Hey, it's Zane. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you being here as always. And today I want to talk about why FOMO is coming to Bitcoin. I want to share with you 4 key reasons why FOMO is headed for Bitcoin at rapid speed. And this is going to drive global adoption. It's going to drive Bitcoin's price, I believe, to all-time new highs into the stratosphere. I think this is going to lead to what is often referred to as hyper-Bitcoinization. I think it's going to transition us into a global free market, into the parallel or circular economy, where people are going to be able to exchange value globally without any friction, peer-to-peer, completely detached and decentralized and separate from the system. And all of these things are so important in this changing and uncertain geopolitical and economic landscape that we're in. So I really hope that you're paying attention to this. I hope that you're turning off the mainstream news, not paying any attention to that whatsoever, and that you're self-educating. And if you're here, I'm sure you're doing that, not just listening to me, but other people who are sharing on YouTube, podcasts, etc. And I really believe it's my duty to help wake Australians up and others who are prepared to listen around the world, because this transition is not going to be straightforward. I believe it's actually going to be quite disruptive and a little chaotic. If you add AI into the mix, we're going to see some real challenges for many people over the next few years. But you can protect yourself, you can take charge, you can start decentralizing your life and storing your value in an incorruptible form of money. But you've got to be learning about this, building your confidence, building your conviction, and taking action on this. Don't just be a consumer of information. Be a creator of your own life, of your destiny, and you have to take action in order to do that. We know that knowledge is power, but knowledge is not power if you don't act upon it. So I want to share these 4 points with you. Before I do that, as you're probably aware, I run and offer one-on-one Zoom calls pretty much every single day except Mondays and Sundays. So you can book a call with me. You'll see a link in the show notes below to my calendar. You'll see a heap of reviews from people who have sessions with me and have had recently, who give feedback, not because I ask for it, but because they just want to share what they got from those sessions. So whether you're just getting started, looking to take things to the next level, learning about self-custody, the right wallets, hardware, software, succession planning, getting yourself set up with a Bitcoin-friendly retirement fund, where to go to set up a SMSF in a compliant way that is cost-effective, all of those kinds of things, I can definitely help you with if you'd like to book a session with me. Be the best 1 hour, I believe, that you will spend this week if you'd like to do that. All right, here's the 4 reasons why FOMO is coming. Number 1, right now we have a great Fiat Awakening. Fiat is the currency that we have, the Australian dollar, the US dollar, the Kiwi dollar, the euro, the pound. This is called fiat currency, and people are waking up to what fiat currency is. Now, you're never going to learn about this on the 6 o'clock news. You're never going to learn about this on the Today Show. You're never going to learn about this from your favorite politician or your accountant or your financial planner. You have to self-educate if you want to understand the truth, if you want to understand the history of money. And if you want to understand why we have a system where people are working harder for less, if you want to understand what true inflation is, if you want to understand what's driving a massive wealth gap that is only going to get wider and wider and wider. You have to do homework if you want to understand these things. Now, the Great Fiat Awakening is a realization that the currency that you exchange your value for out there in the marketplace, whether it's in your career, your job, your business, whatever it might be, that currency is failing. Because fiat fiat currencies like the Australian dollar are no longer backed by anything. And I know that sounds crazy. You might say, oh, well, we just use it and we go and buy our coffee and we pay for our mortgages and our rent and car payments, etc. with that currency. Yes, you do, but you live in a debt-based system, and it is a control system where the money is centralized. And what Bitcoin is an opt-out of that, because we start to see all of the problems associated with centralized money. And these problems really came to the fore with the global financial crisis, which began in September 2008 with the fall of Lehman Brothers, a major banking institution in America. And this led to a cascading effect all around the world, including in Australia. But what happened exactly 1 month after the GFC began? What we had was the release of what was known and what is known as the Bitcoin white paper by this anonymous pseudonym, this anonymous figure or people or group known as Satoshi Nakamoto, somebody who we've never met, many believe has now passed on, but essentially a gift was given to the world in the form of a protocol, a monetary protocol that was the answer to the central debt-based fiat system. And people are starting to wake up to this now. And so I'm encouraging you, if you haven't already done some work on Bitcoin, spent 10 hours reading a book or two, listening to some long-form podcasts, not just me, but other educators out there who are sharing this, because Bitcoin does not have an education department. It doesn't have a marketing department. It is a decentralized protocol that is driven by consensus. It relies on people to broaden the understanding of what this thing is. And it's the consensus protocol that also keeps it secure, decentralized, maintains the integrity of the monetary network. It's the reason why it's never been hacked. But you have to understand this. You have to spend time learning about this. And this is why I have my one-on-one calls. It's also why I have a private mentorship community. We have a training, 6-week training, running every Tuesday night, starting next Tuesday night. And I've got people joining that group every single day now. So if you're interested in that, you'll also see a link for that in the show notes below, or you can send me an email and I'll share more information with you. But the great Fiat Awakening, this is what people are waking up to now. They can see, hang on, we've been sold a lie. Fiat currency, we are at the end of a global monetary experiment, which essentially began in August 1971, when President Nixon severed the gold standard. He broke the gold promise, the promise that was made following World War II at Bretton Woods, where the US would become the reserve currency of the world, and in return for that, people could repatriate, exchange their gold at any time, or their dollars for gold at any time. So the US would be the custodian of all the gold. In exchange, they would issue US dollars. The US currency would become the reserve currency of the world. And it all sounded good in theory, but what happened when the US was prolonging the Vietnam War and they were looking for ways to fund it, it was France was the first nation that was starting to wake up and say, hey, something's not right here. How on earth are they funding this ongoing war? And of course, when they went to ask for their gold back, that was when the executive order was instituted by Nixon. And since that time, that temporary suspension of converting dollars back into gold, he said was temporary, has become absolutely permanent. And so a little bit of a sidetrack there, but a lot of people don't understand this history, and Australia is a part of this system. And it's now, thanks to the internet, because the internet is decentralized, it is a way for us to self-educate. We are learning about this stuff. We never could have learned about this stuff pre-internet. We had no concept of the meaning of fiat currency, the history of money. All we had was what was in front of us and what was being dictated to us by the mainstream news. But now we know better. So the Fiat Awakening, this is people waking up to what fiat currency is and questioning Why is it that they're going to go and exchange their time and value and energy and intellectual property and skills and labor for a currency that is being decimated? That's the Fiat Awakening, and they're realizing, hang on a minute, if that's my only option to go and work for those dollars, to work for that currency, the next best thing I can do is exchange that value as soon as I get it and I've paid my living expenses, my bills. How can I exchange that value or my capital or my retirement account or my savings that are caught in this legacy system? How can I exchange that to a decentralized monetary system that cannot be corrupted? And people are waking up to this now, and this is what's happening. Bitcoin is that system. So the Fiat Awakening is one reason why FOMO is coming. More and more people are waking up to what Fiat is. They're waking up to the fact that it is a Ponzi scheme. They can create as much fiat as they like. You and I have no idea how much fiat currency is in circulation and how much they're going to print tomorrow, next month, next year. We're at the whim. That's it. People are waking up to that. Number two is the institutional stampede. Institutional money is coming for the world's most scarce asset. Economics 101 tells you that when something is truly scarce and you have unlimited demand, what is going to happen to the price? It's very, very simple. There's no more Bitcoin once all of the Bitcoin has been released to market. There's 21 million Bitcoin. There's actually less than that because 3 to 4 million of it has disappeared due to seizures and people dying with the keys in their head, things like that, over the last 16 years. And so there's really not 21 million at all. There's less than that. But what we know is that 19.7, 19.8, something like that, million Bitcoin has already been mined, has already been released to market. And so it's really over the next, I think it's 100 years that the remaining Bitcoin is going to be mined because of the way the Bitcoin protocol works. Too much detail to go into it into this video, but all you need to know is that Bitcoin supply is not forever. Okay, there's going to come a day in the next little while, it could be within the next couple of years, where you're going to go to an exchange or a broker to try and buy Bitcoin, and you may find it difficult to do that. Now, obviously, Bitcoin will always be available at any price, a certain amount of it, but when you have institutional money with the deepest pockets on earth, who have money sitting on their balance sheets, who are looking to protect that money and preserve its purchasing power, they're the ones who are going to be able to scoop up any available Bitcoin supply that is available. And this is why I keep saying there is a window of opportunity for the normies, the plebs like you and I, to stack a meaningful amount of Bitcoin. We want to front run these institutions. What we know about institutions is that they are typically slow to act because they have boards of directors, it's a process, there's corporate governance, all sorts of legal constraints tied to corporations, all those kinds of things. And so they're typically slow to act. And so you and I, who are a lot more nimble and fleet of foot, we're able to front run that institutional money if we don't muck around, if we act now. So capital is going to be forced into Bitcoin as a safe haven. Now, the first person to understand this was, of course, Michael Saylor. And he has been the most prolific corporate treasury company and CEO. He realized in very early 2020, when the pandemic came along, the health crisis, whatever you want to call it, and he knew that they were going to print money to prop up the entire financial system during that global situation. And he knew that with $500 million cash sitting in the bank, the value of that 500 million was going to go down fast with all of this liquidity, quantitative easing, money printing that was about to transpire. And so after considering various options, what did he do? He chose Bitcoin, and it's proven to be an absolute masterstroke. I believe that Michael Saylor is probably going to become the world's first trillionaire, and so do many others. And so, if you look at MicroStrategy, it has become the best performing company on the S&P for the past 5 years. And so, in daylight seconds. So this is what's coming. People are utilizing, and companies are utilizing, MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor as a model for what they can do. And it just means for you and I that there's billions, if not trillions of dollars of capital headed towards a fixed asset that you and I can participate in, that we have equal right to, but we want to hurry up because we're going to get to a situation where, things are going to become very, very difficult. So, the institutional stampede. Number 3, the hurdle rate. Number 3 is the hurdle rate. People are waking up and realizing that they have a hurdle rate that they need to leap over with their capital, with their savings, with their superannuation, with their assets, if they want to protect their purchasing power and their wealth. And what is the hurdle rate? The hurdle rate is the rate of true inflation. And true inflation is not what they tell you on the news, those people wearing their fancy $4,000 and $5,000 suits who tell you that inflation is under control. That is not true inflation. True inflation is the part that they don't tell you, which is the rate of monetary expansion. How do you think they fund all of their spending programs? They don't do it through taxation. If they needed to tax you to fund their spending programs, then you would be paying probably 80 to 90% tax. And of course, they couldn't do that because that would become politically unpopular. So what they do is they use another form of taxation called inflation. And this is why free market economists such as Milton Friedman of the 1970s, who won a Nobel Prize, he referred to inflation as taxation without legislation. Taxation without legislation. So you don't need to go through Parliament to pass a law to create more taxes. All you need to do is hit the big red button and you create the same effect. Dilute everyone's purchasing power, flood the economy with more currency, drive up asset prices, generate more stamp duty on inflated real estate. This is how you do it, and this is what they do. So, what it does is it drives true inflation to higher and higher heights, and right now, by any order of measure, it's at least 12%, but probably more like 15%. And if you doubt that, all I'd ask you to do is go and price your insurance policies, your house, your grocery bill, your school fees, your car payments, your petrol. Price all of that 5 years ago. And then price it now and then come back to me. And you tell me if true inflation is running at 3 or 4% like they tell you. I'd be really interested to know if that's the truth. You and I both know it's not the truth. It's a complete fabrication. It's a complete lie. True inflation is way more than that. And so your assets, if you have your capital and your super and your real estate and everything stored in assets that are only doing 7 or 8%, which is what they're doing, then basically you're selling out your financial future because the value of those assets is going down. It's being eaten by inflation. You're only halfway there and where you need to be. You're not hurdling over the true inflation rate. So the hurdle rate is what you need to be paying attention to. Now, what asset beats the hurdle rate? Well, to my knowledge, the only one on earth that beats the hurdle rate on a consistent basis is Bitcoin. And it doesn't just beat it. You're not just stepping over the hurdle or leaping over the hurdle. You are flying over the hurdle with a vast clearance from the hurdle to what you're actually achieving. What I mean by that is every other asset on earth over the past 7 years, look up ARK Invest, ARK Invest, Google it, you'll see it right there. They put out all these graphs all the time. The last 7 years, Bitcoin has done 59%. Every other asset on earth has averaged 7 to 8%. And so you now get to choose which asset you want to be in. Do you want to be in a dying, mature, decaying, centralized legacy-based form of asset where the rules can be changed on you any minute, and they are being changed. And I know this because people tell me who have vast real estate portfolios. For example, every single week I have conversations with people who are rotating out of real estate into Bitcoin because they can see all of the bullshit going on, making their life harder. And so they know they've got to get out while they still can. So, the hurdle rate. People are paying attention to the hurdle rate. They're saying to themselves, this is not worth it. It's not worth keeping all of my capital and my savings stored in a system that is constantly eroding my wealth. And Bitcoin is the one that gets you home when it comes to that. And historically, this has been the case. Now, we don't know what the future is going to hold for Bitcoin. This is why I say do some research for yourself. Get comfortable with the idea yourself. Start low and then grow. The more low you start and you start deploying, you learn about how to buy Bitcoin in a frictionless way. You learn about self-custody. You get confident with that process. You start educating yourself more. You pay attention to what's going on in the world. Guess what you're going to do? Probably what I did, and that is deploy more, and then deploy more, and then deploy more. And pretty soon you're going to get to a point where pretty much everything you've got's there. And this is what's happening. So, I don't want to run this video for too much longer, but I want to leave you with this because this is important. For every $10,000 that you leave in a asset that is doing just 8%, that $10,000 in 10 years is going to be worth just $20,000, just over. So essentially you're going to double your money. For every $10,000 that you put into Bitcoin, which historically has done, the last 10 years, 80%, the last 7, 59, let's call it 50%. For every $10,000 you have in Bitcoin, if Bitcoin continues to perform at 50% over the next 10 years, then that $10,000 will become $500,000. So a 50x. So, you have to make informed decisions here, particularly if you've got 10 to 15 years until retirement. You've got to be looking really closely at your portfolio of assets, your shares, your real estate, your superannuation. You have to be asking yourself, what am I going to do now that's different, that's going to give me a chance of beating the hurdle rate, of protecting my wealth, protecting my life savings, and that also enables me to be somewhat detached, no counterparty, no permission required, if the world goes to hell in a handbasket. And all of these things are on the cards. So we're in the midst of a great wealth transfer. FOMO is coming. It's going to be gradual, and then it's going to be sudden. And I really want you to be paying attention to this. If you need to book a call with me, please look for the link in my show notes. I'd love to meet you on Zoom, help you on your journey with the simple next best steps. I'll share with you what I'm doing. I'll guide you in the best possible way that I can, and I know you get tremendous value from it. Please share your comments, and please subscribe. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I know that less than 50% of you who watch my videos are subscribed. One of the best ways to support the channel is to subscribe, and of course that helps encourage me to keep showing up and sharing what I know in this space. Thanks for tuning in. This is Zane signing out. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.